They never expected us to come back. For over a century, the Galactic Empire had ruled with arrogance baked into its bones. Humanity, once a proud and unruly race of thinkers, fighters, and survivors, had been deemed extinct. Our last colonies were erased, our leaders assassinated, our fleets burned into space dust. They called it a containment. They said it was mercy. But they made one mistake. They never found the black core. I was a boy when it happened, 10 years old. I watched from a reinforced observation deck as the sky over Titan Station split with plasma fire. I remember my father's hand, tight around mine, trembling but firm. I remember the sound of metal shrieking, of people screaming over comms, of alarms that meant nothing because by the time they blared, it was already too late. I remember the warship. It wasn't one of theirs. It was ours. The Nimrod. An old beast from Earth's third colonial fleet, rusted and nearly forgotten, hanging in the dry dock like some half-dead animal. The Empire didn't even bother targeting it. Why would they? It had no power, no command, and no known crew. But I saw it. Saw the moment her lights flickered on like a beast stirred from slumber. Then the ion blasts came. Not from the Empire, from her. One after another. Silent blue bolts lanced out and erased 3 destroyers like swatting flies. And then she vanished. People talked about it for years, like some old ghost story passed between soldiers at low bars and smugglers hiding in void zones. They called it the last roar. Most thought it was a fluke, some final gasp of automation. But I knew better. I knew because my father told me something that night, just before the pressure seals failed. She's not done. He died seconds later. I survived because a scavenger crew picked me up adrift weeks later. They sold me into a mining pit on Zarnak 4, like a good little piece of scrap. But I never forgot that warship. Or what she did, or what he said. Now, 37 years later, I'm the captain of the Remnant. A human ship, barely held together, stolen, salvaged, and stained with blood. And tonight, on the edge of the Eltherian Rift, we found something. She was there. Not hidden, not cloaked, not dead. Drifting, yes, but whole. Silent. Awake in ways machines shouldn't be. The Nimrod. We didn't ask questions. My crew knew the look in my eyes. We docked without words, afraid they might wake something best left dreaming. But she welcomed us. Her systems purred alive like she remembered us, like she had waited for someone to return. The bridge. Gods, the bridge was clean, pristine, like the Empire never touched it. She still bore the flag of old Earth, still had the holographic recording of the anthem in her memory banks. I stood in that ghost-lit room, running my fingers along the leather armrest of the captain's chair. It was as if I was always meant to be there. And when I sat down, she responded. The engines lit, power surged, weapons recalibrated themselves. The ship didn't ask for authentication. She knew. Then the scans came in. An Imperial battle group, 50 ships strong, was patrolling the neighboring quadrant. And I swear to everything I've lost, the Nimrod hummed with something like hunger. My comms officer, a boy we call Bones because of how thin he is, whispered the obvious. Sir, if this ship is half what the legends say, she's more, I cut him off, because she was. And I could feel it, every panel, every breath of recycled air, every soft glow of ancient tech. This wasn't just a ship. It was fury sealed in armor, rage given shape. They thought we were dead. They thought our war was over. They thought their containment worked. They were wrong, because tonight we ride again. And their defenses? Their mighty cruisers and carriers? They'll learn what fear is. Not from a fleet, From one ship, from one human warship. From us, the Nimrod's systems thrummed like a living beast waking from centuries of slumber. Old Earth technology, grimy, analog in places, and brutal by today's digital standards, spoke to us in a language that was almost primal. None of it was smooth, none of it was elegant. It was real, raw, and violent, just like the men and women who'd built her. Bones sat at the tactical console, hands hovering over the controls like he was afraid to touch her. "Sir," he muttered, "she's not calibrated to modern comms. I'm having to convert everything manually through the translator grid. I didn't care. Can we shoot?" He nodded, sweat forming at his temple. "Yeah, we can shoot." That was all that mattered. Beside me, Lars, my second in command, a man built like the back end of a gunship, leaned against the railing, arms crossed. "You really think we can take on 50 ships?" I didn't answer right away. I stared out the wide, panoramic bridge window where the distant shimmer of the Eltharian rift painted the void in sickly hues of purple and green. The Empire's battle group was out there, probably scanning, probably bored out of their minds, never thinking for a second that the myth of humanity's wrath still floated nearby. "I don't think we can take them," I finally said. "I think we can erase them." Lars raised a brow. "You better be right." The Nimrod didn't need faith. She had firepower. Bones brought up the targeting map on the hologrid. It flickered, distorted with static, then corrected itself with a heavy mechanical grind. "Sir, scanners show 12 capital ships, 8 carriers, 15 destroyers, and the rest support class." Lars grunted. "Hell of a welcome party." "They haven't seen us yet," Bones added. "We're outside their sweep range, at least for now." "Good. Let them sleep in peace for a few more minutes." The crew worked like ghosts. None of us belonged here, not really. We were pirates, ex-slaves, escapees, drifters. We weren't born for command decks or battle strategies. We weren't trained to fly relics from Earth's golden age of war. But here we were, inside the last real warship our species had left, and we were ready to die to make them remember who we were. Lars ran diagnostics across the main gun grid. "Sir, we've got 5 neutron lances online, 2 rail cannons, and something called Judgment Core in the weapons manifest. What the hell is that?" "Pull it up." Bones tapped into the systems. His face paled. "Sir, the Judgment Core. It's a quantum destabilizer. Unleashed, it could fold a moon in half." A silence fell over the bridge. Then Lars grinned. "I like this ship." We all did. We didn't waste time with meetings or long-winded strategies. We'd lived in the shadows of the Empire long enough to know the truth. Surprise was our only advantage. We weren't going to play fair. We were going to strike like a knife in the dark and make them bleed in places they didn't know could bleed. I leaned forward, voice steady. "Plot the vector. Engage engines at minimum output. Keep us in shadow until we hit max range on their forward carrier." "Aye, Captain." The engines purred, not roared. This ship didn't scream. She whispered. Her old Earth core ran quieter than any of us expected, and the more we activated systems, the more she responded like she knew us, not just our commands, our intentions. She was awake now. The next few hours moved in slow tension. Every breath felt heavier. Every system check a countdown to something inevitable. Bones kept checking the proximity scans. Lars adjusted the heat sinks and radiation dampeners. Even Graft, our engineer who hadn't spoken more than 6 words in the past year, came up to the bridge and watched with eyes wide as hell. And then we hit the edge of their sensor perimeter. 3 ships just pinged us, Bones whispered. Lars looked over. "Do they know what we are?" Bones hesitated. "They're rerouting patrols, but no weapons lock yet." I think they think we're a freighter. Let them. I stood, heart pounding, fingers tight around the command chair. I didn't feel fear. I felt something colder, more focused. Target the lead carrier, I said. Bring main guns online. Judgment Core stays offline unless I say otherwise. Yes, sir. The crosshair on the hologrid lit up. We waited another minute. The enemy ships realigned, standard protocol for intercepting smugglers. 2 destroyers peeled off. No shields raised. No fighters launched. Open fire, I said. The Nimrod's rail cannons spoke first. No sound in the void, just light. Pure, blinding, ancient light that cut through the stars like truth through lies. The lead carrier ceased to exist. Not disabled. Not damaged. Gone. A hole burned through the void where a 3,000-meter-long capital ship had hovered. The destroyers didn't even have time to change formation before the neutron lances followed. One beam clipped the tail end of a cruiser trying to turn. It split like a rotted fruit. The other lance hit a support ship. It melted inward, compressed into nothing under the sheer force of gravity unleashed. "Contacts!" Bones shouted. "They're scrambling! Fighters deploying! Shields up across the battle group!" "Good," I said. "Now they know." The Empire didn't retreat. It never had. It didn't know how. Their doctrine was simple. Outgun, outnumber, overwhelm. But that only worked when the enemy played by the same rules. We didn't. We weaved between their lines like a phantom. Old Earth maneuvering systems allowed turns modern ships couldn't track. The Nimrod danced through plasma fields and particle bursts with the ease of a serpent in water. Lars manned the lances. Bones kept locking new targets. Every few minutes, we erased another Imperial ship. The kill count rose. 17, 22, 28. And we hadn't taken a single hit. But they were adapting. The flagship, a behemoth called the Avenger's Mercy, was pulling back, rallying the remaining ships into a tight formation. Shields overlapping, fighters weaving nets of crossfire. "They're regrouping," Bones warned, "trying to bait us into the kill zone." "They're scared," I replied. "Keep hitting the stragglers. Bleed them out." We were none of those things. Lars leaned over. "Sir, they're trying to calm us." I nodded. "Let them." The bridge speaker crackled with static, then a polished voice cut through. Arrogant, disbelieving. "Unidentified vessel, this is Commodore Thran of the Galactic Empire. You are engaging in hostile action against sovereign military assets. Identify yourself immediately or be destroyed." I walked up to the comms, voice steady. "This is Captain Rygar of Earth's last warship. You forgot us, but we didn't forget you." A pause. Then, "Earth is no more." "Not while we breathe." I cut the line. The next minutes were chaos. Every Empire ship turned toward us. Their formation meant to trap. But they were too slow. Too proud. And then I gave the order. "Bring Judgment Core online." Bones froze. "Captain, it'll destabilize the entire area." "Exactly." They wanted to erase us? Let them taste extinction. The lights on the bridge dimmed. The Nimrod groaned, her hull vibrating like a beast at the edge of its cage. Power readings went off the charts. Even Lars looked nervous. "This isn't a weapon," he muttered. "It's a goddamn war crime." "No," I said. "It's vengeance." The targeting map blinked, locking onto the densest point of their formation, the Avenger's Mercy, their command. I gave the final word. "Fire." The Judgment Core released. Not a beam. Not a missile. A singularity. It blossomed like a black flower of death, silent, beautiful, and cruel. Everything nearby collapsed. Ships twisted, metal screamed, lights vanished. The Avengers' mercy folded in on itself in a moment of pure horror. And then silence. Real silence. No enemies left, no signals, just drifting wreckage and the echo of the void. We had won. One ship, one human crew, against the might of an empire. But the victory didn't taste sweet. Because now, they knew we were alive, and they'd come for us. Wreckage drifted across the void like the aftermath of a butcher's work. Twisted hulls, ruptured engines, and torn insignias, once proud emblems of the Empire, floated silently around the Nimrod. We didn't speak for a while. The bridge was dead quiet. The only sound was the subtle humming of systems recalibrating after the Judgment Core fired. Bones leaned back in his chair, eyes unfocused, fingers still twitching. That wasn't a battle, he whispered. That was a massacre. I didn't answer him. I couldn't. My throat was dry, my chest heavy. It should have felt like victory, but it didn't. It felt like a warning, to us as much as to them. Lars turned to me, voice low and grim. How many ships were in that blast radius? Too many, I replied. He nodded slowly. And now they know what we've got. That was the truth of it. The element of surprise was gone. The Empire might have lost ships, dozens even, but what they'd gained was worse. Now they'd send more, stronger, smarter, ruthless commanders with something to prove. We'd humiliated them. They wouldn't forget it. Bones' voice broke the silence again. We've got distress pings bouncing off our bow, debris beacons, survivors. Lars looked over. From them? Mostly. Couple of unaligned signals, too. Civilians, maybe. Traitors who got caught in the zone. I sighed. We're not running a rescue op. But I said no. It was cruel, I knew, but mercy was for civilizations at peace. We weren't there. We were still clawing our way back into the fight, and dragging wounded enemies on board was suicide. I stood from the command chair, legs stiff from the hours. Scan for jump points. We need to vanish before reinforcements arrive. Bones gave me a tight nod. There's a fringe gate 2 clicks beyond the rift's edge, unmapped by Empire charts, according to what Nimrod's database is pulling from archived feeds. Perfect. The less the Empire knew, the better. The engines came back online with a shudder, like waking something old and angry. The Nimrod turned away from the graveyard we'd made, and for a brief moment, the shattered fleet looked like stars behind us. But I couldn't look back. If I did, I'd start to question the man I was becoming. We reached the rift's edge an hour later, a swirling mass of gravitational eddies and radiation pockets. The Eltharian rift was a navigational nightmare. But the Nimrod didn't seem concerned. Her systems mapped the chaos with ease, pushing through spatial distortions like she'd done it 1,000 times before. Lars stood beside me, arms crossed. You ever think we're just prolonging the inevitable? I didn't look at him. I don't believe in inevitability. You don't believe in much. I believe in revenge. He didn't argue. The rift spat us out into an uncharted sector. No stations, no colonies, no traffic, just empty black. It was peaceful in a way I hadn't felt since childhood. That peace, however, didn't last. Within minutes, Bones called out from his station. We've got a ping. Empire? He squinted. Number not reading like it. Small, human dot. Lars raised an eyebrow. Human? Out here? We all stared at the hologrid. Sure enough, a tiny vessel, barely a speck, floated in the distance. No weapons, no shields. It looked like a personal craft, old too, possibly even pre-Empire. "Bring it aboard," I said. Lars didn't protest this time. Maybe he was as curious as I was. The docking bay hissed open 10 minutes later. Graft, our silent engineer, stood nearby with 2 security crew in case things got ugly. I stepped forward as the pod's hatch released. Inside was a man. Thin, ragged, but conscious. He looked up at me with haunted eyes. "Name," I said. He coughed. "Arlen. From Hades 9. That made my stomach tighten. Hades 9 had been one of Earth's furthest outposts, officially gone, erased by the Empire during the Purge. If he was from there, he shouldn't be alive. "I thought everyone on Hades 9 was wiped out." Arlen shook his head weakly. "Not all of us. Some of us hid, underground, deep in the crust, survived for years on rations and scavenged tech, but they came back." "Who?" He looked up, face ashen. "The Inquisitors." That word sent a chill through the hangar. The Empire's secret enforcers, genetically modified, soulless monsters in human skin. They didn't fight wars. They erased bloodlines. Arlen continued, voice shaky. "They weren't looking to kill us. Not this time. They wanted tech. Old Earth war blueprints. Data archives. One of our survivors had an AI core fragment. They took him." My mind raced. If the Inquisitors were hunting down old Earth relics, then they knew about the Nimrod. That battle we just fought wasn't the end. It was the start. I looked at Lars. "How fast can we get to Hades 9? He checked his wrist pad. 6 hours if we push the engines to bleed." "Do it." Arlen gripped my arm as I turned to leave. "You don't understand. They're not just collecting data, they're building something. They're using our tech against us." I stared at him. "What kind of tech?" His voice dropped to a whisper. "Earth-class dreadnoughts, reverse-engineered, and worse, they've started cloning old Earth officers." The words hit me like a punch to the gut. The Empire had always mocked our tech as outdated, but now they were trying to replicate it? And cloning our commanders? That meant they didn't just want to erase us. They wanted to become us. As we lifted out of the hangar, Lars fell into step beside me. "You think he's lying?" "No," I said flatly, "and that's the problem." We set course for Hades 9, pushing the engines harder than we ever had. The Nimrod handled it. No overheating, no stalling, like she wanted us to get there, like she had something to settle. Bones called down from the bridge. "Captain, I've been decrypting the data we pulled from the battle group wreckage. You're going to want to see this." By the time I reached the bridge, the screen was already playing. A shaky recording. An Imperial officer reporting to a higher command. "Target is active. Human warship designated Nimrod has re-emerged. Casualties significant. Requesting deployment of Reclamation Squad Theta Prime. Cloning facilities at Sector 0 have been activated. We will not allow Earth's legacy to survive uncontrolled." The screen flickered out. I turned slowly, hands clenched into fists. "They're scared." Lars nodded. "Good." Bones wasn't smiling, though. "They're scared, Captain, but they're not running. They're building. If they finish whatever they're planning." "They won't." The stars outside blurred as we jumped toward Hades 9. Another ghost from our past. Another place the Empire thought buried. But like everything they tried to kill, we refused to stay dead. And when we got there, whatever they had waiting for us, clones, dreadnoughts, inquisitors, it wouldn't be enough. Because we weren't just coming with weapons. We were coming with rage. The jump to Hades 9 wasn't smooth. The Nimrod bucked against space like it hated where we were going. Engines screamed in protest, and Bones had to manually override the auxiliary power flow 3 times just to keep from dropping out of warp. It was almost like she knew what waited ahead. Lars leaned over the bridge console, staring at the nav readouts. Radiation spikes, power surges. It's like the whole sector's tearing itself apart. It's them, I said. The Empire's not hiding anymore. They're testing something. Bones turned, eyes wide. Captain, we're receiving fragments of comm chatter, not directed at us, just loose transmissions bouncing around local space. Play it. Static filled the speakers, then screams, short, clipped words, human and not, distorted reports about non-standard energy anomalies and hostile counterintelligence nodes. One fragment chilled me. The clones. No, they're thinking. They're not under control. We didn't plan for... The recording cut. I gritted my teeth. They couldn't replicate us. They tried to remake our minds, our tactics, but they forgot what made us human in the first place. Unpredictability, Lars muttered. No, I replied. Pain. The will to fight when everything's already lost. The Nimrod broke warp. And Hades 9 welcomed us like a grave. But amid the wreckage, we saw it. A station, not Imperial, not ours. Something between. Lars magnified the feed. That's not a shipyard. No, I agreed. It's a lab. The structure floated on 6 long arms, stretching around a dark metallic core. Dim lights blinked inside, powerful ones. Shielding arrays, automated defense turrets, even a cloak generator half operational. They weren't building ships there. They were birthing monsters. Bones tapped his console. Sir, I've isolated a transmission from inside the facility. It's coded in Earth dialect. Our dialect. That hit like a fist in the gut. On screen, I ordered. A moment later, the holoscreen blinked to life, and a face appeared. Not Imperial. Not alien. Mine. Bones gasped. That's... you! It was. A perfect replica. Down to the scar above the left brow I got during a mining riot. His voice, when he spoke, was cold and stripped of all humanity. This is Unit Rygar Variant 12. You have entered a restricted cloning operation. Your existence is considered a threat to the current stabilization protocol of the Dominion Project. Evacuate immediately. Lars leaned in. Dominion? Bones shook his head, pulling up data fast. It's a command theory, a theoretical doctrine. The idea of removing all free will from military chains by replacing leaders with controlled clones, programmed with success, not instinct. I stared at my double. They wanted the fury, the cunning, the raw edge, but none of the soul. They wanted Earth's monsters without Earth's heart. Exactly, Bones said. They're not trying to rebuild Earth's strength. They're trying to copy-paste obedience. Lars grunted. So what's the plan, Captain? Blow it to hell? I nodded. Yeah, but we're going in first. Lars blinked. What? If they've got a lab this deep, they've got data. Maybe even survivors. Maybe even us. The real us. Memories. Technology intel we've forgotten. Bones looked uneasy. What if they clone more than you? They have, I said. I can feel it. We prepped for boarding. No fancy exosuits, no polished marine units, just us, worn armor, slug rifles, and nerves wrapped in pain. I took Lars, Bones, and 3 others. We docked at one of the outer arms. The airlock fought us. We blew it. Inside was hell. Dim red emergency lights painted everything in blood. The walls were streaked with handprints, some smeared, some dried. Screams echoed from the lower decks. We passed rooms full of empty tanks, each one labeled with numbers and names from Earth's military history. Room 18, A, Colony Dax. Room 32C, Admiral Wren. Room 41. F, General Ward. And on. They'd tried to resurrect legends. Bones stopped dead at one of the terminals. Sir, they were mapping our brains, from old battles, old war footage, even civilian recordings. They were trying to piece together a soul from scraps, I said. But they never earned it. Lars moved ahead, rifle raised. Contact. 3 figures emerged from the shadows. Not guards, not clones. Humans, survivors, starved, broken, but alive. They flinched at our presence until they saw the Earth flag on my shoulder. Then they cried. We herded them toward the docking tunnel, quick and silent. No time for comfort, no speeches. Not yet. Bones stayed near the rear, his face pale. Sir, these people, some of them are scientists, Earthborn. They were forced into this. One of them told me the clones, they're starting to remember things they never lived. They're evolving, I said darkly. We reached the command center. It wasn't abandoned. My double stood there. Clean uniform. Still and rigid, hands behind his back like some cold god staring into monitors. He turned as we entered. I am the perfected Rygar, he said, free of emotion, free of pain. You are obsolete. I raised my weapon. I am the pain. He moved fast. Too fast. We collided in a blur. He was stronger, faster, but I was meaner. I fought like a cornered animal. No form, no grace, just fists and fury. Lars and Bones opened fire on the control cores. Sparks flew. Sirens wailed. The clone slammed me into a bulkhead, metal denting behind my back. You're flawed, he hissed. I spat blood in his face. That's what makes me real. I jammed a blade through his ribs. He shuddered, stared at me, then fell. Bones triggered the overload. The core's hum deepened to a shriek. We ran. The Nimrod was ready. We launched seconds before the entire facility tore apart in a flash of artificial light. Once again, silence followed. But this time, we didn't cheer. Lars leaned forward, breathing hard. Captain, that wasn't just a lab. That was a plan. A message. I know, I said. They'll come harder now. I hope they do. Because now I wasn't just fighting to avenge the past. I was fighting to stop them from rewriting it. And Earth's last warship? She was just getting started. We drifted through the black, carrying silence like a scar. The clone lab was ash now, and the screams still echoed in my ears. Half-human cries, half-synthetic. Things trying to be us, failing, dying. The survivors we rescued were quiet, huddled deep in the Nimrod's medical bay, too numb to speak, too broken to weep. I didn't push them. I knew that silence. I wore it for years. Lars sat across from me on the bridge, boots propped on the console, eyes locked on nothing. They're going to respond. They already are, I said. Bones tapped a screen from Tactical. Multiple pings entering the sector. Fast movers. Heat signatures we haven't seen before. Empire? Lars asked. Bones looked pale. Worse, something new. I turned toward the window. Deep in the distance, where the void bent slightly around distorted light, I saw them. Dozens of ships. Sleek, sharp. Not built for war. Designed for eradication. That was no defensive fleet. That was a purge armada. And they were heading straight for us. Origin? I asked. Bones glanced at his console, then hesitated. They launched from Sector 0. That name again. The one whispered in black site records. The place where the Empire kept secrets even their own admirals feared. where nightmares were made, not born. They're not just sending ships now, I said. They're sending what they've become. Lars stood. What's the play, Captain? Run? Fight? Broadcast everything we found? I shook my head. We go dark. Hit them before they know we're there. We bleed them from the inside. Sector 0 falls. Bones blinked. You want to go into their stronghold? No, I said. I want to erase it. The crew didn't cheer. We weren't that kind of people. But their eyes hardened, jaws clenched. They were tired of running, tired of waiting to be hunted. The survivors in Medbay gave us data, fragments, codes, ancient encryption keys hidden in Earth's long-lost war doctrines. Buried beneath blood and betrayal were maps of the Empire's internal corridors, hidden labs, ghost tunnels, places that shouldn't exist. One of the scientists, a woman named Hallie, explained the worst of it. They're growing more than clones now, she said, her voice hollow. They've begun splicing. With what? She swallowed. Us and something else. Alien genetics, machines. They're not just building soldiers, they're designing gods. I should have been shocked, but I wasn't. That's how empires always fall, by trying to control what they don't understand. The jump to Sector 0 took 17 hours. We didn't rest. We prepped every gun, every emergency protocol, every possible fail-safe. We were going into hell with our eyes open. The Nimrod didn't complain. She almost seemed to grow quieter, like even she knew where we were headed and chose not to speak. When we emerged from warp, Sector 0 wasn't what I expected. It wasn't a station. It was a planet, or what was left of one. A world cut in half, floating chunks tethered by artificial gravity nets, metal bridges, atmosphere shells, labs carved into the crust, orbital defense rings crawling with drones. Bones sucked air through his teeth. That's not military. That's a graveyard wrapped in tech. They turned a dead world into their Genesis site, I muttered. Lars pointed. What's that? Hovering just above the planet was a ship. Huge. Wrong. Its hull was blacker than space, pulsing with some kind of organic light. There were no windows, no engines. It didn't move. It just existed. Like it was watching. Bones shook his head. I can't get a reading. Nothing. It's like the data avoids it. Lars looked at me. Do we hit it? No, I said. We go under it. We found a thermal fissure near the southern crust. One of Hallie's maps showed a long-forgotten mine tunnel, probably dug centuries ago during the first colonization of the planet. We slipped the Nimrod into it, the engines barely whispering. We disembarked 10 clicks beneath the surface. Heat. Pressure. The kind that makes your blood feel like it's boiling under your skin. But we pressed on. The deeper we went, the worse it got. Halls smeared with ash. Rooms with restraints bolted to walls. Tanks filled with fluid. And inside, half-built people. Not dead. Not alive, just stuck in some terrible middle, like they were caught mid-scream and the horror never ended. Bones vomited. Lars didn't look away. I touched one of the tanks. The thing inside twitched. It had eyes like mine. We pressed on. Sector 0 wasn't a facility. It was a goddamn womb of horror. And at the center of it all, we found her. She stood taller than us. Pale skin, silver veins, eyes that weren't human but held recognition. You came back, she said, voice echoing from inside our skulls. Lars raised his weapon. Who the hell are you? I am what they wanted, she whispered. Perfection without rebellion, power without pain. I stepped forward. You're a lie, wrapped in science and fear." "No," she said. "I am what comes next." She raised a hand, and everything burned. Not fire, not heat, just pressure, a crushing weight of memories, voices, wars I hadn't fought but suddenly remembered, clones, ancients, battlefields from other lives. She was pushing our minds into chaos. But then I felt it. The Nimrod, not physically, in my head. Her voice, not words, just presence, strength, anchor. I roared, broke free, tackled the abomination. We fought like animals. She bled light, not blood. She screamed like broken glass. But I didn't care. I drove my knife through her chest, and she fell, her body twisted, cracking like stone. And then the lab collapsed. Bones screamed over comms. "Captain, the core is destabilizing." We ran. Barely made it back to the Nimrod before the tunnels blew. We launched. The planet split wider. That massive ship above, it opened. It screamed, and it chased us, faster than physics. Bones shouted, "It's not a ship, it's a sentience, a weaponized consciousness." We couldn't outrun it, but we could outsmart it. I turned to Lars. "Judgment Core, one more time." "But Captain..." "Now!" We spun in space, faced the thing head on, and fired. The singularity collapsed space, and for a second, everything stopped. Then the ship vanished. Sector 0? Gone. Like it never existed. The bridge went silent again. Just the sound of breath. Lars lowered his gun. "We did it?" "No," I said. "We delayed it." But for now, humanity had screamed back. And the stars, they heard us. After we destroyed Sector 0, the galaxy didn't cheer. There were no celebrations. No broadcasts hailing us as heroes. No fleet rushing to join our cause. Just silence. Bitter and vast. The kind of silence you feel in your bones when you realize you've stepped past the point of no return. Back on the Nimrod, the air felt heavier. The ship had taken damage, not from weapons, but from whatever that abomination above Sector 0 had been. The one that screamed through space and tore at our minds. Graft said something deep in the engine core had changed. "It's like the ship remembers what it just fought," he muttered. "Like it's evolving." Lars wasn't surprised. We fought something more than a weapon. That thing was alive. Bones hadn't slept since we jumped away. He was jittery, jumpy, like his own thoughts were attacking him. "That thing downloaded something into my head," he whispered one night in the mess hall. "I don't remember everything, but I feel it, like it knows me now." I didn't have the heart to tell him I felt it too. The clone I killed in Sector 0, the one wearing my face, was just a prototype. That woman, that thing we found buried under that nightmare facility, she wasn't the end. She was the first phase. We all knew it. But there was something else eating at me. After the battle, I went down to the cryo deck. A quiet place. Empty, except for the survivors we'd saved. Hallie was there, still awake, still watching me like I was a puzzle she hadn't solved yet. "You've changed," she said without looking up. "We all have." "No," she said. "Not like this. You move differently now. You think differently." I stared at her. "You think they got to me?" She shrugged. "You killed your own face. I don't know what that does to a man." I didn't answer, because I didn't know either. The next week passed like fog. We drifted through fringe space, trying to repair what we could. The Nimrod worked with us, not against us. But I could feel it, the tension, the hum of something deeper brewing inside her systems. She wanted to fight, She wanted war. And then came the signal. A broad-range transmission from deep Empire territory, not coded, not encrypted. A message sent on open frequencies, almost like bait. Bones called us to the bridge. "Sir, you need to hear this." He played it. A voice, calm, cold, familiar. "I am Regent Executor Talvin, voice of the Imperial Seat. The rumors are true. Sector 0 has fallen. The abomination is no more. We know who is responsible." Pause. "We welcome it." That froze us. Talvin continued. "The creature you destroyed was never under our control. It was built by rogue elements, fragments of Earth's failed legacy. You did what we could not." Lars cursed under his breath. "They're trying to spin it." "They're trying to use us," I growled. Talvin's voice resumed. "Captain Rygar, you are not our enemy. The Empire will not pursue you if you come to the negotiation table. There is more at stake now than rebellion. A greater threat brews in the outer void. The old enemies stir." The feed cut out. Silence again. Bones muttered, "He's lying." Lars scoffed. "Obviously. But what the hell's he talking about? Old enemies?" I stepped forward. "He's not lying about that part." They looked at me. I took a breath. "I saw it in Sector 0, before the core collapsed. Visions, memories, something beyond us. Beyond them. The Empire's meddling opened a door they didn't understand." "Then why invite us?" Bones asked. "Because now they need a shield," I said, "and we're the only ones that have survived the storm." Lars stood. "So, what's the move? Ignore it? Set course for Earth, if anything's left of it?" I turned slowly towards the main viewport. "No," I said. "We go meet him." Bones blinked. "You want to negotiate with the Empire?" "I want to see what they fear." We plotted a course to Vallis Prime, a central Imperial command world. It was a trap. Of course it was. But we didn't care. We went in cloaked, silent, using the old Earth stealth systems buried deep in the Nimrod's core. Stuff even the Empire hadn't figured out. Vallis was beautiful. On the surface. Golden towers, orbiting rings, shimmering artificial oceans. A lie carved in light. But beneath it all, we saw the cracks. Buildings reinforced with energy barriers, streets lined with mech patrols, civilians with implants behind their ears. Fear disguised as order. They were bracing for something. And that told me everything I needed to know. We landed under diplomatic clearance. Lars and I went alone, unarmed, at least on the surface. Bones stayed in orbit with full launch authority if things went bad. We were led through marble halls to a chamber of light and silence. And there he was. Talvin. A man in white armor, skin like ice, eyes like dead stars. He smiled as we entered, like we were old friends. "Captain Rygar," he said. Or should I say, Ghost of Earth. I didn't shake his hand. "You wanted to talk," I said. "So talk." Talvin nodded. "We watched what you did. We analyzed the Judgment Core. Your ship, Nimrod, is not just a relic. She's a key." "To what?" He gestured to the holomap above the table. It expanded, showing stars far beyond the known sectors. "There's something out there," he said. "Something older than the Empire. Older than your Earth." Lars frowned. "What kind of something?" Talvin's voice lowered. "We call them the Architects." I felt my blood run cold. "We've intercepted ruins, signals, temporal echoes. They once ruled this galaxy. Then they vanished. But the technologies we've reverse-engineered, the clones, the ship mines, even the abomination you destroyed, they were meant to fight the architects. I stared at him. You used Earth's remains to build weapons. For a war you don't understand. We had no choice. No, I said. You chose this. You chose to play gods with dead bones. He didn't flinch. Maybe, but now you're in it too. He leaned forward. We're offering alliance, not peace, not forgiveness, mutual survival. You've seen the edge of the storm. What comes next is worse. Lars glanced at me. Captain? I nodded. I turned back to Talvin. We'll fight. But not for you. Of course. And if you betray us, you'll erase us, he finished, like you erased everything else. He smiled faintly. I look forward to it. We left without fanfare. The crew didn't like it. They didn't trust it. But I didn't need trust right now. I needed war, because if these architects were waking, humanity would scream again, and this time, the stars would burn. The galaxy was holding its breath. After Valus Prime, after that cold handshake with Talvin and his whispered warnings of architects, nothing felt the same. The stars were quieter, the tension heavier, and I, Ryger, wasn't sure whether we'd stepped into a war or onto the edge of extinction. We jumped back into fringe space, where no patrols dared roam. A place forgotten, dead, cold, the perfect hiding place to think. The Nimrod hovered silently above a broken asteroid field. She felt different now. Not just upgraded, aware. Ever since Sector 0, her systems were shifting. Lights glowed longer than needed. Internal bulkheads clicked at night when no one walked her halls. Graft said the AI cores were stirring. Not active, not conscious. Just watching. I stood alone in the observation deck. Beyond the window was darkness, void-choked space littered with old mining rigs and shattered transports. The ghosts of empires long gone. Lars found me an hour later. We've got incoming data, he said, arms crossed. Bones pulled it off the Empire's long-range probes, transmissions from the edges of mapped space. Let me guess, I said. More whispers of ghosts? He shook his head. Number this time, it's footage. He passed me a slate. It played. Grainy, distorted, but real. A colonial freighter, somewhere near the edge of the tenebrous drift. Standard flight pattern, normal communications. Then the footage stuttered. Something came out of the void. No flash, no energy signature. Just sudden movement, inverted geometry like space was breaking around it. The freighter's hull peeled open, not from impact, but like it was invited to collapse. And then, silence. No distress calls, no wreckage, nothing. I handed it back. How many of those reports? Lars shrugged. 37, maybe more. Empire ships? All types. Civilian, military, pirate. They're testing us, I said. He nodded. Yeah, like wolves probing a fence line. We returned to the bridge. Bones pulled up more logs, fragments, lost comms, dying words from captains who didn't understand what hit them. But one clip chilled the room. A woman's voice. Calm, quiet. Almost resigned. If you find this, know they don't come with fire. They come with silence, with knowing. They look like gods, but feel like grief. Like remembering your own death before it happens. The crew was silent for a long time after. Finally, Lars asked, "How do we fight something like that?" I looked at him. By not fighting it like the Empire would. He frowned. Then how? I turned to the console. By becoming what they fear, we needed answers. Real ones. So we did something I swore I'd never do. We went back to Earth. Not the Earth of maps or dreams. The real one. Buried under centuries of decay and silence. The Nimrod punched through the solar system like a blade through cloth. We bypassed every defense net the Empire left. Most were decommissioned anyway. No one came here anymore. No one wanted to. Because Earth wasn't a home. It was a tomb. We entered orbit above the ruins of the old eastern seaboard. The cities were rust. Towers had fallen. Oceans bled toxins. Sky was a permanent haze. But beneath it all, deep in the earth, was the Bastion Vault, one of the last military command centers from the final war. Untouched, or so we thought. Lars, Bones, and I landed with a squad of 5. Standard loadouts, high-frequency pulse rifles, limited armor. We weren't expecting a firefight, just shadows. We dropped into the vault through an old orbital lift shaft, deep into the bones of the Earth. First thing that hit me? The smell. Dry. Dusty. Like ash that had forgotten how to burn. We pushed into the heart of the vault, moving through collapsed corridors and shattered statues of old generals. Names I remembered from stories. Ghosts in steel. Then we hit the main door. Still sealed. But the console blinked when I approached. It scanned my face, then opened. Bones blinked. That shouldn't be possible. It knows, I said. We stepped inside. The chamber beyond was massive, rows of terminals, broken monitors, but one screen still glowed. A single word. Rampart. Lars approached it. Old Earth AI? I nodded. Prototype, never deployed. The screen pulsed. Then a voice echoed through the chamber. Not synthetic. Not human. Something in between. Ryger, designation, command air, status, active. Bones jumped. It knows you. I stepped forward. Rampart, confirm identity. Confirmed. Final sequence initiated. Uploading Prime Battle Archive. The floor shook. Then a beam shot into the ceiling, and data poured into the Nimrod. Blueprints, protocols, histories, not of Earth's past, but of her contingencies. And at the core of it all? The Archway Project. A buried initiative from Earth's last days. A plan to face extra-dimensional threats of unknown intelligence. Their name? The architects? Rampart's voice lowered. They cannot be destroyed, only denied. They feed on pattern, on belief. You must become chaos. Lars looked confused. What the hell does that mean? Rampart answered. To survive the architects, you must cease to exist in their terms. No records, no symmetry, no memory. You must unmake yourself. Bones stepped back. You're telling us to vanish? Rampart spoke its last words. Only ghosts survive gods. Then it died. The vault powered down. We left in silence. Back aboard the Nimrod, Graft confirmed what we feared. The ship had absorbed the entire Rampart archive. Its systems were changing again. But this time she was going quiet, removing beacon signatures, scrambling her own patterns, erasing logs, unmaking herself, becoming what the architects can't track. Lars leaned close. You really think this'll work? I looked out at dead Earth. I think it's our only chance. Bones asked, and after that? Then, I said, we become the storm. The galaxy didn't see us coming. That was the point. The Nimrod had unmade herself, wiped her identity, erased her trail, scrambled every frequency, signature, and particle trail. As far as the stars were concerned, we didn't exist anymore. Just whispers, just fear. We became ghosts. We stalked the void, avoiding systems, staying in dead space, watching, listening. The architects moved slowly, but always forward, like inevitability given form. Planets dimmed behind them. Stations stopped transmitting. Not destroyed, just hollowed. As if whatever they touched didn't matter anymore. Bones sat in front of a blinking screen one night. No signal, just static. He turned to me. "I don't think they kill," he whispered. "I think they make you forget you were ever alive." That haunted me. The Nimrod had grown quiet, but her presence was stronger than ever. Doors opened a second before we approached. Consoles blinked without being touched. Systems rerouted themselves to suit our instincts, not our commands. It was no longer a ship. It was part of us, and we were part of it. Rampart's final message played in my head every night. Only ghosts survive, gods. But I wasn't here to just survive. I was here to make the gods bleed. The Empire fell silent 2 weeks later. Talvin's last message was fragmented, intercepted by Bones after a relay station died screaming. Construct breached the inner ring. We opened a rift to slow it. Not enough. They are learning faster than anticipated. Pattern resistance collapsing. Begin phase Sigma. Cut. No more orders. No more empires. Just the silence of consumed gods. We set course for the last signal. The edge of known space. A place once marked as unstable quantum sector. The coordinates flickered on our screen like a cursed number. Lars looked over. "We go in loud." I shook my head. Number we go in wrong. That was Rampart's final secret. The architects thrived on order, patterns, predictability, cause and effect. So we unlearned it. No formation, no rhythm, no broadcasts. We navigated in spirals, moved our weapons across multiple ports, fired at empty space to mask intentions. And when we arrived, they were waiting. We saw them. Not ships, not creatures. Forms, massive, shifting, unanchored to reality. One looked like a fractured cathedral floating sideways. Another like a human eye stretched across kilometers of glass. And one was shaped like a perfect cube, humming with unspoken math. Bones stared at it too long and started to bleed from his nose. We dragged him away, and then they noticed us. Not because we made noise, but because we didn't. The Nimrod glowed briefly, then spoke, not with words, with memory. She sent a pulse across the void, an echo of every war, every scream, every failure, every fight that made us who we were. Not perfect, not divine, just furious. The closest architect entity paused. Tilted, if something that vast and formless could tilt. And then came the flood. They attacked. Reality bent. They didn't use weapons, they used thoughts. We saw crew members freeze mid-movement, caught in memory loops. One man relived his daughter's death over and over until he stopped breathing. Lars clutched his head, screaming about voices that weren't his. Bones convulsed. Graft passed out from brain hemorrhage. Me? I stood in the center of the bridge and dared them to break me. They tried. Gods, they tried. I saw my father die again. My mother wither in a mining camp. I saw every life I never lived. Lives where we lost, where we surrendered, where we became them. And I rejected all of it, because humans don't bend, we burn. The Nimrod's judgment core activated for the last time. But this time, not as a weapon. As a beacon. It pulsed through dimensions. It called every forgotten signal, every abandoned AI, every fractured piece of old Earth rage hidden in the data vaults of the stars. And they answered. All the ghosts. Old Earth war constructs once thought lost, derelict dreadnoughts drifting in silence. AI shards inside meteor cores. They lit up one by one, and together we screamed, not with sound, with defiance. The architects recoiled. They didn't understand chaos. They didn't expect pain to fight back. We pushed. The Nimrod dove into the largest entity, ripping through its form with 1 billion terawatts of raw heat and broken will. It split. Not because of fire, because of grief. That was our secret weapon. Grief. Rage. The long agony of being forgotten and still getting back up. We bled. We lost. Lars died with his gun firing. Bones vanished during a systems overload. His last words. "Make it hurt, Captain." And I stayed on the bridge. Alone. Watching as the last architect blinked out of existence. And then? Silence. Not the cold silence of defeat. The silence of peace, of something old finally gone. The Nimrod floated, her hull broken, her power dimming. I leaned back in the command chair, broken ribs grinding, and I smiled. Because we were never supposed to win. But we did. Not with armies, not with diplomacy, with one ship. One human warship. And the memory of everything they tried to erase. We were ghosts, but we screamed like gods.